Hey, good morning, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. What's happening? Smash the like button or you suck toes, says Davey. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not so sure that's a bad thing. Nice. Sorry. I'm a toe fan. Anyway, Goddess Divine, good to see you. JD, Black Fox. Goddess Divine, Atypical Paul, good to see you. Hello, Shell. One with cats. Sandy Wandy. Kevin Hawthorne, Lakeland, Florida. Good to see you. Just being me. Dark sarcasm. No dark sarcasm. Tommy Bird, what's happening? DeAudrey Gore. Danny's mom. Good to see you. JD. Taekwondo. For life. Let's see. Queen of Awkwardness. Subi. J9. Zena Turner. Stay Spiria. No, the toe thing is not the big boat news. You know what's funny? Somebody said in a message recently, they put up a bunch of emojis and they said, 6 minutes I had to wait before you start talking about, you don't have to do a thing. I promise you, I don't have any button that holds anybody here while I do roll call. Okay? I don't have any ability to hit a button to make people stay. I got a wicked cool button that can make people disappear. I don't have one that can make people stick around though. Really cracks me up. Tommy, I want to feel well, and I just tested positive for the C plus math. I am so sorry to hear that, Henny. On the bright side, that does suck. On the bright side, right? There are, I talked to people last week, a bunch, and I would say that it was probably 5, right? There 8 that really, really were struggling, and 5 that said that they really, like it was almost nothing. You know, it just sort of passed very quickly. I know that whatever AA round got dropped him. He did post yesterday, but it was just to his board, you know, so that laid him down. That's a long food poisoning, right? I've gotten food poisoning a bunch. I don't know that I've ever gotten it more than about 24 to 48 hours. No, the big news is this. So the people that I was talking to in Florida reached out to me, and you know, I talked to you guys. At least I think I was pretty open about trying to find someone to write what I was working with. And they brought in I sort of interviewed, or they interviewed me. We interviewed each other. You have to, I guess, be really. You have to get along with somebody if you're going to sit down and tell them your life story or big chunks of your life story or whatever. And no, everybody they brought first, and this is going to sound, I don't know how this is going to sound, but I'm going to do it. But I said I'd rather not tell this story to a woman. Now, before you get sexist, what I don't want is for I don't want feelings, right? Like chances are they're not going to hire a dude, and we're not going to develop feelings for one another other than maybe writing a story. But I wouldn't want to. I hired a lawyer once and married her, and I've hired some other people that in the past that kind of ended up into relationships, and I didn't want my story told by somebody that might have done anything but tell my story or become a part of my story, which would be weird. Does that make sense? And I think it bummed people out when I said that, but whatever. That's kind of what I want to do. I'd like the story told by somebody that's just going to tell the story, and I think I'm going to be safer with a dude that way. And I'm not saying that the woman would be bad. I'm saying I might, you know, fall in love. Would be my fault just as much as anyone else's. What? Thank you, JD. Okay, so we've been sort of shopping around for the people that were going to write this. And Trainee, good to see you. I didn't land on anybody while I was down there that I was particularly comfortable with. And they were all very, very cool, right? They were all very, very cool. But it just didn't, none of them seemed, I would have loved to have played golf with any one of them or go to dinner with them or whatever, but I didn't feel like if I sat in a room with them for a really long time, I had a feeling I'd scare every one of them, if you really want to know the truth. Like these people look like I might have some stories that might keep these people up at night. Honestly. So I guess I've been kind of waiting for the next round of people that that I'm going to interview or whatever. And I got some news where they said, I've got a bunch of people that we would like you to talk to who are a woman who is gay. I could probably, Taekwondo. It depends. Yeah, that would probably work. Yeah, I think really that's more of what I'm getting at is less about because a guy who could be interested in me might. What I'm looking for is no opportunity whatsoever for a relationship to develop that is anything other than a writer relationship. So that's a great question because that's really what I'm looking for. So I suppose that that there are variations of that. I am. There are some women writers who I am hugely fans of. Married women, not so much something I would do my other's keeper. And I'm not saying I'm a beast or any of that. I don't want to be in a really closed quarter for a very long period of time, telling my entire life story, weeping and all kinds of stuff like that with a married woman. Now, maybe that sounds awful, but they're more likely to put an arm on my shoulder. I would like this just to be, I don't know how to explain it, but I'm a dirtbag. I'm not a good person. Yeah, and when emotions are, yeah, JD, thank you. When you're with somebody and you're weeping or you're really at your deepest, and you know what? If you're really involved in the story, they're crying. Okay, well, you know what happens when all those chemicals are flying? Nothing good, right? Or really good, depending on how you're looking at it. But I try not to put myself in those situations very often with married women, right? And I have, right? But not since becoming a good person, right? So, I just really want to feel comfortable, and the way I just want to be comfortable, and that I think is the best possible thing. Honestly, I just think that's the best case scenario. I had a counselor in prison, and I'm pretty sure they transferred because the woman really, really liked me, and nothing weird ever happened. But I know that, like when I was on the watch, somebody said to me, "Boy, it's odd. The doctor comes up here every day." I said, "I read in the handbook that's policy. Like they pretty much have to come up here every day." He goes, "Yeah, but it's never the same one twice." And I just think she took an interest in my case that was probably more than she should have, and I think they probably transferred her for it. They're really serious about that crap in the feds. I promise you, nothing ever happened. But thank you, old Scott. And you know what? I'll be honest. I was a dick about the. I wasn't really great about boundaries the entire time. One of the reasons that I had to move from one place to another was because when I got to the first place, and then we started to talk about my story, they thought they were buying a true crime thing, and I don't have any desire to sell a true crime story. Like that's not the story I want told. And so the person was really cool, but he was like, "Okay, nothing I can do to help you." Then, I mean, that took honestly all of about 4 minutes. Taekwondo. Where is this main? I'm not sure if I even know where this main nerve is. Are you talking about the one back here? Because that's the only one I know of. But I've never had my scalp go numb. Unless I'm boundaries. What's that? Valerie gets it. Okay, so the big news is that there's a whole group of people that they want me to go an interview with, or maybe they're going to send here, and I don't know exactly how it's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to Florida or if they're coming here or if I'm going to California. I don't have any idea how it goes from here, but they would like me to talk to a group of people. And I said, same kind of situation. And they said, actually, we'd like you to talk to some screenwriters. Now, that I think is I like this more as an idea, right? And how come you ain't writing it, Tommy?
We talked about that last time.
I'm guessing that you probably have never caught any of the shows where I talk about this, but I have a disconnect. And I've had a disconnect for a long time from my brain to my hand. Right? It goes back to things that I don't learn the way other people learn. And if I feel like what I'm writing isn't going to look like the way you wrote it, then I'm going to change the vocabulary to a word that I spell better, right? I'm going to do all kinds of things to try to make myself look like I'm not stupid. And I realize you can say, well, just write it like you. Trust me, I've been trying that since I was 12, right? Maybe 10. This is not a new thing for me. This is why I became a drug addict. But I'm very at ease with it, right? I'm very good at communicating, just the way I'm doing it right now. Now, the good news is this. If it were, when they start talking about screenwriters, this is a concept I understand more. Do you know what I mean? Rick, but you absolutely can get your thoughts from your head to the page, and you do it well, actually. I can't get my thoughts from my head to the page, is where the problem comes. Midnight Joe, thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. Rexkin Messler, glad you're here as well. Now, the good news is, I honest to God understand I understand the concept. This makes more sense to me. I spent a stink load of time, right? A stink load of time in solitary confinement. And do you know what you do in solitary confinement? You walk back and forth all day long, alone. And you usually write screenplays in your head for your life story up to that point, right? Whether you mean to or not, that's pretty much how it goes down, right? You start doing everything within your power to figure out a way to tell the story, and you do a lot of that. And if you're in there long enough, you stop doing it in your head, you start doing it out loud because there's nobody there anyway, and it starts sounding good to your. You want to hear your own voice. Silence, I've told you, I really don't dig silence. Now, you can have a radio in the shoe, unless you get a cop that really hates you, right? And then he'll figure out a way to make sure that doesn't happen. Like they'll do a cell search and your headphones come up busted while they're gone. They're you really don't have a whole lot of control over your. J9 says, why not put it all down on audio? This is something that has been discussed ad nauseum, actually. And it's not a bad idea, right? But it gets back to organization. There's a reason that everybody wanted to name the cat. There's a reason that everybody wanted to name the cat Squirrel. You feel me? My ability to having a screenwriter that says to me, all right, listen, I want you to tell me the story of, right? I need you to, they have a concept in their head for the story they're trying to tell. And they'll say, you know what, tell me the gnarliest thing you ever saw in prison in terms of just gore or disgust or whatever. Okay, I could do that. Probably do it better than he can write it. Right? I do have a hell of a lot of confidence in my ability to speak. I could probably tell that story better than he could write it. But trying to organize, right? A great example is you've seen my tattoo, right? You guys have all seen my my sleeve. The guy that decided to I tried getting this dude to do my arm for a really long time because he was super talented and he was in magazines and all this stuff. And this is inside prison. And for the longest time, he just said, "Look, I don't do prison tattoos," which didn't make any sense to me because it's basically the highest paid job in prison other than a drug dealer, right? And those guys usually stay high for free because people buy them drugs and they just tattoo all day. And I said to him one day, "Why do you not sling ink?" He's like, "Man, how many skulls can you draw?" He's like, "How many?" He's like, "I just get to a point, man, where I do not want to see this ever again, man. I don't want to see it. You feel me?" And I said, "Yeah, I get it." I said, "I was looking for an Alice in Wonderland sleeve anywhere." And he lit up, and he's like, "Oh, dude." He's like, "You're an Alice in Wonderland guy?" I said, "Yeah." He said, No, man. Let's let me go. Buy me some dope and let it go. JD, I would be willing to bet you any amount of money you would like that it's been done, at least by the people that are handling this, because I can look. About 7 people are doing it right now. And they're leaving. They're letting me know they're doing it. Right? So somebody's watching a whole lot of my old videos, and they're doing it in sequence, and they're letting me know. SPTV Tattoo Warrior did that. And a bunch of you have, but there are some people that are doing it that I don't know, and I would imagine that they're going to do all of that. I would imagine that they're going to do all that. But I think you want to see something that is pretty spectacular. I didn't get to watch this, but I got to listen to it, and it was incredible. And I gotta believe it was more fun to watch than it was to listen to. But they just had the anniversary of Goodfellas, right? And I don't remember what anniversary it is, but they had, and they didn't just have it because they got a lot of Ray Liotta's voice in it. He's dead. And Paul, the guy that played Paulie Sorvino in it. I mean, Paul Sorvino, the guy that played Paulie Castellano, whatever the name was. Paulie Cicero. He's dead now too, I think. But they were interviewing all of these people, and they were talking about the making of the movie. And one of the guys said, when Martin Scorsese was, he said when they were looking and talking about the book was, I read the book. It's right. It's based on a book called Wise Guys, and Wise Guys was the story told of Henry Hill's life, right? From now, Henry Hill, you talk to the guy that wrote the screenplay, or the guy that dealt with him, even the FBI guy, his handler that got him his new life when he went into witness protection. They all said the same thing. He was a dirtbag, absolute dirtbag, right? The guy was just a dirtbag, but he was so much fun to be around, right? He was more fun than any dirtbag in history. Told a great story, and everybody kind of loved him. But they got the right guy to write his story, because Henry Hill was a scumbag of epic proportion. But when you were done watching Goodfellas, you liked him. You knew at the end of that movie, he ratted on everybody, right? The dude was a rat. He took down everybody, and you walked out of the theater loving him. Boy, that's a hell of a good job, right? That dude can write a story. But they said as it was going, he said Scorsese would write down cream. And he said as it was going, he was thinking to himself, he's thinking about what color is going to be. He was thinking about the soundtrack. And it was so in his head that Scorsese saw this. I promise, before anybody did, like he was hearing what was going on in the background, and like he get it. All right. I think I know how I want this story told. I'm not good at it, but I think I know how I want this story told. And the idea of trying to do it in a chronological order for me would be a very difficult thing to do, because I just don't know that my brain works like that. But when they said screenplay and screenwriter, it completely changed my entire thought of all of this, right? You're right. Scorsese's soundtracks rule. There's no question. I mean, and the soundtrack to Goodfellas, not only is it a bunch of really fantastic songs, right? Because they're all perfect, but how they're put in there. They are as much a part of the film as anything, right? Opening line, as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. And the way the tunes come in right after that, right? Oh, dude. It's in the one of the guys said in this documentary that I listened to, he said it's one of those films that can stop a day. Because if you walk by and it's on a television set, right, or someone's watching it, you're probably just going to drop down and go, "Oh, I'll watch this." Yeah, the word on Aaron is he posted yesterday. He's healing, but that man makes content. He is a content creator, right? In fact, I don't know anybody that creates more content than he does. My brother's an animal and does the same kind of thing, but 3 and 4 videos a day, sometimes 5 videos a day. Aaron just cranks stuff out. So if he's not putting out a bunch of stuff, he's hurting. But he's posting. He's not, no one needs to, he is putting stuff up. You know what, Brianna? 4 days is 4 days. And I'm not going to lie to you.
Doesn't matter why you have 4 days. 4 days is 4 days.
Well, and more importantly, if you can stretch 4 to 7, right? You don't have a long way to go. No joke. You don't have a long way to go, Brianna. Honest to God, right? 4 4 days is a long time. Maybe I haven't quit anything in a really long time, but I remember 72 hours being like that's the big one, isn't it? You're past 72 hours, Brianna. That's not 4 days without. You've quit. Not for nothing, right? 72 hours. The nicotine's out of your system, right? You're not jonesing. If you go back at this point, you're going back for habit. We're better than that. I promise. Go back and watch a bunch of my habit shows. You're at that point, you're doing it because you like to go like this. Pack a pack, take the top off, right? Light that thing, take it out. Do you have a good luck cigarette? You pull one out, turn it upside down. I never did that. But boy, I watch the people who do it, and it's autopilot, right? The striatum takes over. I need a pack of Marlboro Reds, right? From that point forward, the striatum takes over. Talking to the people around you, you're doing that dance, doing the thing you do. You're not, it is on autopilot. Take that thing out the way everything you do, right? It's the ritual. Me with my dope, right? I would bite that thing off. I would spit the balloon, right? And the part that you bite, that was the bust. So I always got caught. Because I could take that other part and I would go like this, but you bite that thing got spit. Itty bitty little balls of red, blue, green. And then I would take the inside, and I had a ritual, I had a routine. It was the exact same way that I did every single time. And I was so damn addicted to that routine that on days that I had nothing, I shot water. Now, I know people always go, so stupid. Well, of course it is. And you have to convince yourself that it's not stupid, right? So you get a collection of all these old cottons that you used, right? Because you don't throw those out. So you take those cottons and you're like, oh, I got like 10 of those. Maybe if I beat on those cottons, what you're going to do is get cotton fever. But at the time, you convince yourself that I start mashing those babies down. If you could pull that water up and it just looks like, oh, I don't know, even pee. Like if it has any kind of a hint of color to it, so that it is not puddled water, no question. Snow, right? One of the grossest things. I've told this story 100 times. One of the grossest things I ever saw. I just left county jail. Just walked out the door of a county jail. And there was a guy standing there and he goes, hey, you got a car? I said, I don't. He goes, if you can get me to my house. He's like, I got a shot. He said, it's literally sitting in a syringe fixed, a speedball. He said, I had it ready to roll. The cops knocked on the door. When I realized who it was, he said, I went out, locked the door behind me and shut it. He said, I got it sitting in there. He goes, and there's at least 4 or 5 bags unopened. I said, let's do this. We got to dude's house. His water's turned off, right? This place was a pit. But he did have dope. And he went in the bathroom and drew water out of the toilet, right? And I just sat and watched him do it. And he squirted the stuff in and he did his routine. And he was, when he's done, he was like, man, you ain't going to fix it? And I was like, and I took the back off the toilet. You know what I mean? And the first shot he did was Coke. And then he did his speedball that he had already had prepared. You know what, man? I'm cooking that water. Like, I'm cooking that water, right? And I got it out of the back of the toilet. And he goes, man, why didn't you tell me to do that? You know, I would have done that. I was like, I could not for 1 second really believe that what you were doing was actually going to shoot that. Like not for a second did I think that's what you were doing. Or I would have said, hey, for the love of God, why wouldn't you use this stuff in the bank? But I mean, one of my father's favorite expressions was that Frank and Jesse, which is sadly how he used to refer to me and my brother. There's some irony in that, but he used to refer to us often as like the Frank and Jesse, like the James boys. But he would say, honest to God, they would drink out of puddles. If it wasn't for their mom, they would be drinking out of puddles. And I mean, we did get to those points, you know, and I think everybody does. Everybody does. Russ, good to see you. Russ, I'll tell you a story. You guys, and you know what? I'm burying the lead. You guys are going to hear this crap because this isn't what the video is about, but you guys get to hear all kinds of cool stuff. The rest of them won't. Right? If you stuck around, now you get to the good stuff. This isn't even what the video is about. But I've been in contact with people from the California prison system. I've told you this. multiple people from the California prison system. And I'm talking about people who work at the prisons. These are not inmates. These are not anybody. But one of them reached out to me. And you know what? It bums me out. But one of them reached out to me and said, hey, I can send you some documents, right? He's like, I can send you some stuff. He said, there was definitely a fight in the California system where some cops got attacked. He said, there was no 30 days of lockdown. So it didn't happen. It was slightly over 24 hours that they had locked down. And he told me a whole lot about his opinion. And this guy's been working there a very long time, about his opinion and about what's going to happen with Danny Masterson. And he wasn't wildly off of anything that I said, right? That special needs yards have a bunch of people on them who are killers. He said, make no mistake. He said, now there are yards that are so protected that those guys aren't there ever. And I said, really? He said, absolutely. And he had a name for it, and it's escaping me, but it was 3 other letters. But it is like the ultimate of the, and I said, and that's where dude's going to end up. And he goes, oh, no chance. No. He said, he may be really high profile in your head. He's not. He said, we're talking about people that did stuff that's so foul that there's literally nobody on earth that could be around those kind of people. That's where they go. He said, and as foul as what Danny did in your head, it's pretty common, sadly, inside the system. And he's not going to be on a yard that is that protective. He said, I said, you don't think this guy's going to get, what he said is this, man, I'm not mad at anybody getting rich. And I kind of said that in my last video. I'm not mad at anybody that's getting rich on this thing. He said, but a lot of grain of salt stuff going on. A lot of stuff you might not want to take too seriously, right? Russ gets it. No matter where this guy goes, he's not going to have a really good time. He's not. It's going to suck. No matter where they put him, it's going to suck. But the hit's been ordered, and he'll be dead within the next period of time. He said, in his experience, right, the GBG inside that system, even on the special need yards, are in there to protect themselves. They're not out there doing that kind of stuff. And he said, been here a long time, bro. He said, the GBG is real. He said, and there are definitely some really tough dudes in there. However, I don't see where any interest would be in them getting involved in this, in terms of them being like this raving band of people that want to assault him for the purpose of enjoying him that way. It's just not that kind of group. He's like, it's not those kind of guys. That's not, they're just happen to be, their sexual preference is different than ours. And because of that, that could put you in some serious jeopardy in a place like prison, because there are guys who will take advantage of that, right? So he said the GBG are really just looking out for each other more than anything else, and he doubted that there's much validity to that rumor. What he did say to me is this: I've seen a ton of famous people come through this place. He said there's a lot more famous people that have come through than you guys can possibly imagine. You don't think about it, but it's California, for God's sake. Okay? A lot of famous people have ended up in there. And he said he would imagine that the first thing that's going to happen is people are going to be trying to tax this guy. And he said, and in the feds, he's watched all my shows. He said, and in the feds, they said, I have mentioned in the feds that the first guys that would take a crack at him would be the white dudes, because he's white. Those guys would be the first to go over there and try to extort him, make him pay rent, do whatever. And he said, yeah, there's not a whole lot of people waiting in line for any of that. He said, on that special needs yard, it's every man for himself. He said, and I would imagine that the first guy that goes up and says, you're going to have to give me X amount of money for protection, is going to be saying, and that protection is from me hurting you. It ain't going to be protection from, like, I ain't protecting you from anybody but me, but you better start paying me or I'm going to start hurting you. He said, and that really is where he sees this guy's future, which runs out quick. I don't care how much money you think you got. You got 120 guys, right? Because you're either paying every one of them, right? Every one of them. Because when you pay the first one, so it's any way you shake it, this dude's not going to have a particularly nice life, And from talking to a guy that, this dude said, You have no idea how many people I've seen on sensitive needs yards. And I said, so you don't think he said, no, I think he's going to have a horrific life. But the people that are out there turning this thing into the WWE and talking about, how many days he's got left and how many hours he's got left and all of that stuff. He's got nothing coming, people. He's going to have the next 30 years of his life. I don't think any of us can imagine just how bad they're going to suck. Just how bad it's going to suck. Gene, if you knew how many people have asked me where you get this sweatshirt, and on the other side of it, it says Lifeboat Crew. There are not any of them left. And do you know what? When they first came out, there were about 45 people in the chat. And I said, you know what? This expression, this phrase, this shirt in this color and all that, we're doing this for the people who are here now. I would suggest grabbing one, people, because someday people are going to go, damn, I wish I could have got those. But we don't make them in this color anymore. You can get Never Quit Quitting shirts on our merch site. On our merch link. If you go click on that, we have Never Quit Quitting stuff. We got a bunch of stuff there. We have some pretty funny stuff there. Even I've got little Danny merchandise there, right? D = NC squared, right? We got that on there. It's got nothing coming, people. And right from the staff on the inside, they said, protecting this dude's going to be damn near impossible. But Rusk has told you that. I've told you that. Anybody that's been in prison has told you that. You don't understand. It's impossible. What do you would have to treat him like the president. They got no interest in that. Nobody's got any interest in protecting that dude. Sorry, not even staff. That's not how it can work. It's impossible, right? You walk around in a city full of bad people, a lot of them carrying weapons. Sorry, but that's the truth. And you say, it can't be, there's not going to, if things are bad, every guy walking to the yard has got a razor in his mouth. Sounds really messed up, but I promise you, when things are bad and tensions are high, like inside gums, right in here, there are razors everywhere. There are things hidden in the day room. There are things hidden in the yard. Yeah. There's scared straight. You know what? I'm not going back. I am not going back. It's an awful place. I told you the story. I had a friend in the feds, and he had the biggest handlebar mustache you've ever seen, like something out of the movies, man. He had this baby like twisted out to here, and I gave him crap about it constantly. And one day he said to me, bro, I do this. And he started like showing me, and he was really badly scarred below it. And I was like, you can't see it at all. He's like, you can't see it because of how I do this mustache. And I said, what happened? And you hear this term all the time in the feds, because as dumb as it is, those guys in there walking around are telling you what crime they're going to do when they get out, right? One more for the road. They got one big one they're going to do, and that's going to be the end of it, right? That's going to be the end of it. One more good one. And they talk about these scores. Well, the last one, I was going, I'm leaving one in the pipe because I'm not coming back here. And the term, right? They're referring to the magazine, or what people call the clip, right? That goes into the gun. When you put that in there, the very last one in, when it is loaded to go and it's in the barrel ready to fire, the fellas refer to that as the pipe. The last one of the pipes for you. You can shoot everything you want, but you're not going to get the cuffs put back on you, because if you've ever been in there, you know it is not where you want to spend the rest of your life. So this guy has a absolutely massive shootout with police at his house, where he successfully shoots a bunch of them, right? But he runs out of ammunition. They're still out there. And he takes the last one for himself and puts it in his mouth. And he bought the ammunition at Walmart. And it's not funny, but it is, because they called this dude Wally, and I didn't realize this for the longest time, but like some guys called it blue light. The last round of ammunition basically exploded. It didn't go off the way it was supposed to. I mean, it messed them up, but it did not do what it was supposed to do in any way, shape, or form. And he said, as soon as it went off, I thought, good God. He knew that he was going to survive it. I know this is bad, but I empathize with Danny for being an alcoholic. He probably trauma person, but he is a violent R. It's difficult. You know what, Gene? I don't dislike you for this in the slightest. Now, I also have the luxury of not disliking you. By that, I mean, I'm not a survivor of that, right? And because of that, maybe it's easier for me to say, I understand what you're saying. I feel for people who have been victimized, and I feel for people who are addicted, and I feel for people who are victims of domestic violence. But the world needs to get really good at breaking the chain. Right? The world really needs to get good at breaking the chain. And you see people from time to time, and you go, you know what? This was somebody that obviously was traumatized, and you can see how they kind of, then seem to traumatize people as well. This dude seemed to be very, very systematic in the things that he did. They were very calculated. They were very thought out. They required going out and getting medication that you were going to use to do this with, right? And he was very, very careful where he picked his victims, right? He went after people that he knew could go to the police, but that police was the Yahoo cult police. They gave him, because of his notoriety, an entire bevy of people that he could go and do this to, unabated. Right? So while I understand and I empathize with anybody who struggles with drug addiction, whatever happens to him when he steps inside, I don't hate. I'm really trying very hard to not hate. But whatever happens to him when he gets in there, happens to him. There is no chance of this happening. Those took place in a time and a day where that was the accepted and allowed thing. It is not the case anymore. It is they very rarely make exceptions. There are exceptions that are made. They are not made the way they used to be. And they're certainly not where you could go in and sit down in the same room with them the way that Charles Manson did with everybody. Right? Think of all the people Charlie Manson did interviews with. There are unbelievable amounts of hours. He did interviews with people from other countries, and Charlie ran the place. If you watch the outtakes, he'd say, "I'm not doing it if we don't get this, this, or this. My chair needs to be higher." Like, they really let Charlie kind of run the institution for a while, I think, or get away with a lot. And it was because there was such a fascination in that person. There was such a fascination with Charles Manson, right? I mean, imagine if they had gotten L. Ron Hubbard locked up, right? Imagine if they had caught him during his life and got him locked up. I mean, he was, according to most, and there's a lot of reason to believe, by the way, that almost all of what we know about Charles Manson's case is BS. I promise you, there's a lot of that case that is. There's so much coming out about the Manson thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Manson's a patsy or a setup or any of that. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying, though, is when he started doing acid and you can go and look at a guy's jacket. There's a prison term, right? A jacket follows you through your entire prison sentence. Your jacket says what you've been busted for, what you went to prison for, what happened when you got into prison, what your lockup orders are. In other words, you got in trouble on the yard and went to the hole and never came back. What's your lockup order? What sent you to the hole? Because on that, it'll say you got into a fight, you got stabbed, whatever, right? Now, even if you're a guy that's trying to be slick, right, and doing what they call PC moves, right? Because a guy could say, "Oh, I need protective custody," or he could just sucker punch somebody in the side of the head when the guy's not looking. We call that a PC move because the cops come and grab him. You follow? Does that make sense? You know what? I could do a video on Manson. I really could. You'd have to do a damn segment on Manson. But Here's what's coming out about Manson. All right, I'll give you so Chaos, I believe, is the most recent book that I read on it. The guy took about 20 some odd years to write. I believe it's called Chaos. Took decades to write this thing. And it's because every time he started to unpeel this onion on Manson, he came across something else that didn't make sense. Like he saw pictures, from Haight, the Haight-Ashbury. Well, LSD was not illegal. You understand that for a period of time, everybody was doing this because you could. This was not an illegal substance. Ecstasy was this way for a while, right? There are every drug sort of has its heyday where you can go out and do this. Well, Manson was doing a ton of acid on, from these clinics down on Haight-Ashbury. But you can see some of the people who are working at that clinic and handing out acid, and they will show you pictures of these cats. And oddly enough, before they were working at the acid clinic on the Haight-Ashbury, they worked for a 3-letter agency in our country. And it's a bitch trying to debate that one because the photo evidence of it is rock solid. And so they chased a couple of them down. And these guys said, oh, yeah. They came to me, and I can't remember the year or whatever, but you can find it in the book, and said, you know what? You got to stop shaving. Helter Skelter. Great book, right? Sadly, right? More BS, right? More BS than almost anything ever written. But it's a hell of a story. Hell of a story. And you know what? The Helter Skelter thing and all that, cool as hell. But a figment of Vincent Bugliosi's imagination. A couple of things written on a wall that he could kind of twist and make. Now, was Helter Skelter written on the wall? You betcha. Did they write Pigs? Yes. Was Piggies the name of a song on an album? It was. But everybody in the entire country at that point was using that term wildly to describe cops. So, absolutely, right? This is what I'm talking about, though.
What the Beatles sell some albums.
Absolutely, it did. It sure sold a bunch of white albums. But here's what we got. You show me a guy's prison jacket, and I don't even need to know him. And this is anybody that's done any time. Show me his prison jacket. I can read it, and I can tell you who this dude is. I promise. Give me his jacket. Let me read what he's been locked up for. Let me read what trouble he got into on the inside, how he got into trouble. Let me read how long he's been on each yard. All of these things read like, and I can tell you everything you need to know about him. Well, here's the thing. Charlie Manson's jacket is public knowledge. You can go get it. Freedom of Information Act. You can get his entire jacket from the time he went into prison to the time he left. He absolutely, this is a fact. This is a fact. In fact, the night he was trying to kill Terry Melcher. He wasn't trying to do, honestly, the whole thing's just BS, but great story, right? Great story. And it was so horrific. And it was the end of free love. It was the end of the 60s. It was the start of something completely different, right? It was the start of something completely different. He thought he should have been a rock star. He thought he got snubbed, particularly by Terry Melcher, and he was going to go and try to get some payback. Bedtime is not day for day, but it is a long time, Christy. You do 85%, and you don't really do 85%. That's just what they tell everybody. But people used to come in and go, you do 85% on your sentence, and I'd go, would you like to bet money on that? Because I'll take your sentence computation, and I'll do the math. I'll run it by 85%. And when I give you your out date, it's not going to be close to your out date. Because that last year you're in prison, you don't get any time for it. You have to finish a year to get your good time. So on day 365, you haven't earned any good time. On day 366, they take off the 15%. So if in my last year of prison I do 11 months, I got screwed on that 11 months. And that always makes the math not add up to 15%. Even if you're lucky as hell, Altamont definitely marked. Yeah, good point. The stabbing at Altamont when the Rolling Stones were playing and they had hired the Hells Angels as security. Altamont was a real, but two great juxtapositions, right? It was really pretty horrific. Now, I read Charlie Manson's prison jacket. right? And this is what you read. He's not a troublemaker, right? At all. He's a guy that goes to prison, does his number. He gets a GED, right? He does everything he's supposed to do. And he is not in a prison gang. He's not affiliated. He's not calling shots. He's nothing. He's the most boring inmate in the history of humanity. And nobody that has ever written a psych profile on him, no one that's ever talked to him, has found him anything other than boring as sin. That includes, by the way, your jacket is your jacket. That includes every probation officer he's ever had. Everyone that ever talked to this jackass thought he was boring as sin. He's just a run-of-the-mill, regular, old, square inmate, right? Kind of guy that I probably wouldn't have been walking a yard with, right? Not even at any point. He's just a boring inmate, right? And then he would get out of prison. He would be out maybe 16 months tops. Pretty typical. You get out, right? You try to get your crap together. They let you get away with 2 or 3 felony drug tests. And back then, driver's licenses didn't have pictures on them, right? I mean, the stuff that you could get away with is amazing. However, he didn't. He'd go out, he'd steal a car, right? No violence. Cat had 0 violence in his jacket. He didn't get in fights, inside or out. No violence in this dude's jacket at all. Nothing. Also, he was never found to have even slightly a screw loose. They thought he was a criminal. He was state raised. Mom was a prostitute. He spent his entire life incarcerated, but he was good at it until the very last time he got out on paper, right? The last time he got out on paper, 1.5 years, he's still out. Well, that's because the probation department went like this. Like, that's where the jacket stops making sense. He tossed crap at her. I'm not surprised by that. He was a piece. But listen, something happened, right? Something happened from the time that Charlie got out before the Tate LaBianca fiasco, right? And all of those murders, right? That I would say that it would probably be an agency who think they're intelligent, probably located somewhere in the middle. You feel me? Now, there's a lot to back that up. Now, is there a Scientology tie-in? You betcha. There is. That man did a buttload of auditing. Oh, I bet they love that. Huh? You got to know they love that. But it's a fact. It's a fact. So, combination of, right, some acid. Definitely did a lot of acid, right? So did I. I didn't whack anybody. You do any acid?
Sheets of it.
Yeah. And he's not lying, because the first sheet I bought from him. You remember what kind?
I do. And I never ate. Listen, I never killed anybody.
No, I haven't killed anybody yet either. We can't prove that.
Notes.
They were musical notes.
I know. It was a billion years ago.
And you know what's crazy is, I'm sure a lot of you have done LSD. These sheets were not the same. Like, they did them different. So you had quarter notes, right? Half notes and full notes. You know how easy you can screw up with that acid? For real. Like, we took some to Bermuda with us on vacation, but we only took the full notes. Ended up sparking so hard. We had one day in Bermuda. I'm not going to lie. It was actually really lovely. I picture women's prisons just girls braiding hair and drawing unicorns. Christy Hughes, odd that you say that. Because when I'm in prison and I go to my happy place, it's usually girls braiding hair and riding unicorns. Right? That's one of my happy places. Like when I'm sitting and trying to meditate and forgetting the fact that this entire place smells like dudes. 4-way acid, says Sherry Rook. Never heard of it. Did it come in window pane? That can be Scientology's new tagline. I didn't see what it was, but I I like the idea. They do need a new tagline. From the people who brought you Charles Manson. Manson said Scientology was too weird for him. And there you go. That's really kind of funny, right?
How about the interview with Geraldo where he goes, "Is it hot in here?"
That literally happened.
Crazy.
Yeah, that literally happened. He said to Geraldo Rivera once in an interview, "Is it hot in here or am I crazy?" It's an outtake, but you can see it. He said, "Is it hot in here or am I crazy?" Can you imagine if Charles Manson said that to you? Would you not have laughed for 4 hours?
I'm still laughing. I've been laughing for 30 years.
We really have been laughing about this for 3 decades. Hey, is it hot in here or am I crazy? A little bit of both. Getting a little warm in here, and you're batshit crazy. No question. Shannon Smith says, Christy Hughes, not quite. COs can be very abusive to women. I'll tell you a story. I was in a county jail a lot, right? When you get in trouble, you especially if you live in someplace for 20 years, the county jail you go in and out of. You may not get convicted of every crime. You may not go to prison, but you're going to spend a bunch of time in a county jail. And you're going to end up seeing the cops that take care of you on the street. You run into them in Walmart. You run into them in stores. So you almost have to, they treat you better. They're afraid that they're going to see you again. Manson made it to OT1, I think. You know what? I don't know, but I will research that because I love that. I love the idea. I love the idea that he's OT1. I really love the idea. It may be BS, but I really like it. And it would make a good t-shirt, if not. Right? Manson was OT. Right? That makes a good t-shirt. It really does. That makes a really, really good t-shirt. But something really happened with Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
I'm serious. Something really happened with Charlie. And I think what was happening is this. Personal opinion, right? From this point forward, personal opinion. I think we were doing a lot of really heavy crap. Go ahead and don your tinfoil hats. But while in prison with nothing to do and a lot of time on your hands, you file FOIA. Everybody files FOIA, right? Oh, you got that from Helter Skelter, the book? Then chances are you got it somewhere else. Because that book, I know I'm a freak. My old memory is pretty freaky. It's not in that book, I promise. But does not mean it's not out there. But it's not in that book. Because I read that book when I was young enough that back then, things that I read, I pretty much could memorize. Sadly but true. That's kind of how my brain worked at the time. Spanky. I kind of like that. I'm not sure what I'm looking at, but I kind of like it. Manson could never walk a GP yard. Even the old timers were after him, from what I know, says Russ Hampton. This is a fact. Here's something
that's a tinfoil hat.
Well, that's a tinfoil hat. There you go. There you go, Calhoun. There you go.
Have wings on the side.
Well, I have a picture of me with a tinfoil hat. I don't know. I did a tinfoil Tuesday, and I had the captain's hat. It was completely tinfoil. I'm going to tell you my opinion on the Manson thing. Russ is right. He couldn't walk a GP yard. Also, video came out the other day, and I'm not trying to bust anybody's chops, man. I'm not. Make your money, okay? I dig it. But the video that came out that said, hey, Danny just got moved to a yard where Charles Manson got lit on fire. And that's not what happened, right? Now, that makes for a great tagline. But Manson didn't get burnt in Corcoran. He didn't. That's not where he got burnt, right? He got lit on fire in the mental place. Starts with a P, I think. But the mental, you know what, Russ, help me out. The mental yard in the feds, that's where he got burned. He did not get burned in Corcoran. He then ended up, what's that? No, not Pelican Bay. This is, if you type in medical, it is a medical only facility where a lot of, but that's where he was not in Corcoran when that happened. That changed us so many times. What people are shooting for is clicks. Yeah, Russ says no, he got sent to Corcoran after that. Yeah, I can't think of the name of the of that medical yard, but it starts with the letter P. I'm almost 100% sure of that. I read the book. I used to be able to do this stuff. But how badly was he burned? He was burned pretty good, right? He really was. And It wasn't burned with gasoline. It was burned with kerosene, and got him on the side of his face. The reason that this happened was he had said, thank you. One moment, please. Thanks, everybody.
Now watch as Tommy ties his shoes.
I didn't even know you were there. That scared me so badly when I came into the. You know what? I'm not getting the name of it. It's very near where I used to live too. It was right across the border, and was this facility. But anyway, that's that. He got burnt there. He didn't get burned in Corcoran, but Vacaville, booyah! It's not a P, it's a V. Thank you, Sandy Wandy. Not a P, a V. Vacaville. That's where he got burnt. Thank you. And it is definitely there. So, Vacaville. Now, I'm not mad at anybody that's trying to make a buck. I'm not. I don't care. I really don't. But, you know, some of the stuff that's coming out, you know, it sounds a lot better, right? When they say, dude got, you know, got his, or he was going to another yard where a guy got his head cut off. Yup. Right? Somebody got their head cut off there. I got something else for you. You'd have a struggle finding a place in California where somebody didn't get their head cut off. I'm sorry. I don't think you can imagine. Now, it doesn't normally happen. Long periods of time can go by. Oh, San Quentin was the paint thinner. Okay, so paint thinner was what they got him with, and it was because there are a lot of people who get inside Christian and really, who get inside prison and really decide they're going to find God. Makes a lot of sense if you think about it. And people go, "Oh, it's because you don't." Well, you're on the street living the worst life you possibly can. When you get sober, a lot of guys then decide to seek out what they are looking for. Gives you a lot of time, right? Or, you can lift weights, you can, you can gamble, you can get in trouble, or you can read books. They got it from the maintenance crew. Russell he's an old convict. Russell, remember back in the day when they used to actually have light bulbs in cells. I'm not kidding you. Cells used to have light bulbs. Obviously, there aren't anymore. But they used to have light bulbs in cells, and they would be inside a metal sleeve so that it was difficult to get the light bulb out, right? But there was a metal sleeve around the outside of it to kind of keep the thing safe. And what would happen is you would get that light, that bulb down to a guy in CMS, and he will chisel the top of that thing out, just like you're going to make a pipe out of it if you're a meth head. Right? But you want to keep the filament intact. So they would poke a hole through the side of that black, and then they fill it with whatever they can get. Kerosene, paint thinner, gas, whatever they can get their hands on, gasoline, and then you screw it in somebody's light socket, right? And when they flip that thing on, that filament hits that liquid, the stuff explodes, and it falls when we had cells that had light bulbs and in the mop bucket room. Yeah, you don't see a lot of light bulbs anymore. One of the reasons is they make good weapons. They also make bombs. If people can get a hold of, that's in quite a few dirty trick books. I never read a lot of those, but you know why? Because when I really started to be a reader, I was in prison. Like that's really where I kind of got my reading legs. Russ, you are old as dirt. Now, I want to tell you something. I am old enough to say that I remember a time when you could smoke. Okay. I actually did time in a state joint when you could still smoke. And if you were indigent, right, they had tobacco for free for the indigent people. No joke. You could get free tobacco if you were indigent. It was foul, like you would not believe. One of the ones that they gave away was Bull Durham. Okay. I was naming the tobacco. It was Bull Durham. And when you busted up a pack of Bull Durham and you went in there, it was like buying cheap weed. There were seeds and stems and things. Oh, it was a rugged tobacco. And they also would put up chew. You could get, really bad chewing tobacco that way as well. Really foul, man. They gave you top. Yeah, top. Here's the thing though, top's not so bad. Bugler was expensive. We could buy Bugler. My first prison fight I ever got into, and yeah, the very first was over a jar of Bugler, and we had we weren't in a cell house, right? This was doors, and we were in the what they call the fish tank. So you only got out 15 minutes every other day to shower, to do everything, right? So I was one of the only people with money, and I had a big can of Bugler, and I also had a bag of Four Aces, and I was letting people have, the Four Aces, right? And I was smoking the Bugler because it's far nicer. So I come back from the shower, and I said to my cellmate, "Hey, did you move the tobacco?" And he was like, No, the guy from cell so and so came in and took it. So I was like, "Huh? You let him take it?" He's like, "Well, no, he just came in and said to me, I'm taking this." I was like, Yeah, you let him take it. Like, you just let a dude come in this here and take this. And I was like, "What cell is he in?" Because I figured, well, here it goes, right? So on the bright side, when I walked into the cell, he was very busy doing something, which really worked out. I didn't have to make a sound opening the doors or anything else. He was like this, doing something at the desk, and I just got him as hard as I could and hit him in the side of the head. Then I picked up my Bugler and I quietly walked back to my cell. And we locked down, no alarms went off, everything was good. And I laid down, went to sleep, and about 5 minutes later, they came and did a health and welfare check. It's the first time I had ever had this done. They were like, "Health and welfare check." I'm like, "What the hell's this?" He's like, "You got to get up and take off all your clothes, get down to your boxer shorts." I was like, "All right." So you get down to your boxers, and they come in, and you go like this, put your hands up, and you turn around, and you're supposed to shake your hair, show them behind your ears, all this stuff. The hands to show them that you weren't in a fight. They're looking for marks, anything like that. So we go through all this. He passes my cell. He goes down the hall. We're all good. About 20 minutes later, he comes back, right? And he goes, "You." I'm like, "Me?" He goes, "Yeah, it's you. You're the one that did it." And I'm like, "That little rat, he told on me." And I was like, "Hey, man, I don't know what dude told you, but he's lying, right? I didn't do nothing." He goes, "He didn't tell me anything." He's like, "However, he has a bruise on his face that's that wide." He's like, "There ain't another hand in this unit that could have made that." He's like, "For real." He's like, "That's what it comes down to." He's like, "You left a bruise on that guy's head that could have only come from your hand." And then I didn't get in any trouble for it. For real. And I said, "Hey, it is what it is, man." And he's like, "Why do you hit a guy?" Right? Walk into a guy's cell and punch a dude in the face. I said, "You think it was that simple?" I'm like, "Come on, man. It was nothing like that." And he's like, "Look, tell me what happened." I said, "I can't do that." He's like, I have a theory." He's like, "I got a theory, man." He's like, "Just, and if my theory's right, you shouldn't be going, getting in any trouble." I was like, "God damn, I wish I could tell you the theory." And the kid after his cell, he goes, "What? Because he's a cell thief?" And I was like, "God." So the cop turns and walks away, and I looked at my cell and I was like, "Bro, I'm pretty sure that's snitching." Right? Like, I don't feel like getting in a fight with you, man. I'm pretty sure you just told on that dude. He's like, No, it was a misunderstanding." He's like, "You and I were communicating. My cellmate was older than me." He was like, "No, I thought we were playing $20,000 pyramid. You look like you couldn't come up with the word." I was like, "No, bro, I wasn't fishing for the word." But yeah, that was my first fight was over a can of Bugler. But that was the state. When I went to the feds, no smoking from day one. Well, I mean, everybody smoked, but you spent a lot of money. A lot of money. Clearwater, I'm glad to hear it's working for you. Clearwater KB. I would like to talk to Tommy about my appalling experience as a depth of corrections nurse. Oh my God. Were you in the state facilities or were you in the federal facilities? I can't imagine being a nurse in Now, I will tell you something. And this is a fact, whether anybody wants to believe it. If you disrespect a woman in a federal prison, and you're a white dude, right? You better have a excellent reason, and you better be tough, because it is something that is really frowned upon. Not because we're great people or anything else, but once again, when you get inside prison, right? There are certain things that we want to say. One of them, people, there is a term when you stand at the window and you pleasure yourself while a nurse walks by, right? Gunner, right? They're called gunners. It's a foul word, right? You smoke deuce? No, man. Jason's done time. You know what? Look, twice in my life, I hit deuce. Both times it was an accident, Jason. Both times it was an accident. I found it scary as crap, if you want to know the truth. So when I first got there, this is Victorville. When I first got to Victorville, I was straight off of the chain, and I got there early, man. Normally I always hit a yard right before lockdown, but I got there really early in the day. And by the time I was out of R&D and like setting up my roll and stuff in my cell, it was right before lunch. And on the way down to lunch, I said to a guy, "Yo, anybody got any dope?" Right? Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. So yeah. Sorry, I just read something that was disturbing. But I said, "Hey, man, anybody got any dope?" He's like, "Yeah, man. As soon as we come back from chow, I'm in the corner, man. Just coming to the corner. It's not PCP ASAP Lizzie, but it might as well be, right? It's the exact damn thing. Because I have smoked PCP, and I promise you, this stuff is it's an analog of it. If it's not, it feels like it. What it is just it's a synthetic cannabinoid. But they call it J class version of it because all of the ones made with a J they're just super. But I took one hit, right? And I thought it was weed. They're passing it around like a joint. I took one hit. And before I even began, like the second it passed my lips on the way down, I knew I was in trouble. It was nothing in the world had ever hit me quicker. I blew it out. I've told the story on the boat before, but we were in a triple cell. This is a cell that's got 3 bunks, and there are not very many of them in the BOP, but it's a triple cell, so it's huge. Legally, they can't make them anymore. So this guy's just got a couch, right? He's got a bunk bed and a couch. They're the coolest cells in the world. But we're sitting on the couch, and he's sitting on a bunk bed, and everybody's just sort of sitting around. And it was, I'm not joking, an hour of guys going like this. Man, this stuff's way too strong. And then the next guy would go, I ain't having any fun, man. And then the next dude would be like, holy shit, right? And this just kept going around in circles like this until it wore off, which was a good hour, man. And that was it. I'm like, I am never, ever doing this crap again as long as I live, right? I am never doing this stuff again. Then same kind of thing, right? I get to a different yard, man. I'm on the Oregon coast, and a guy says to me, hey, man, we were right around Christmas. And he's like, do you get high? Well, at this point, I'm not getting high on anything, right? I got a completely different life. I'm page 3 Tommy, and I'm like, no, man, I don't get down, man. Yeah, I don't. You get wet? Sure. Sherman Helmsley. Yeah, no, man, not my get down, dude. Not my get down. Little reference. Anybody get that? Anyway. So when I got to Oregon, the dude's like, you don't do anything. You don't do anything. I was like, yo, bro, if you can get some tobacco, and I would rather not take tobacco out of a cop's mouth. Like I'm not chewing tobacco spit. It's not. But if you can get tobacco like out of a cigarette, I'd love to smoke one, and I'd love to buy one. So dude says to me, I can get you one. And I buy half of a cigarette re-rolled, but it has never been smoked before, right? Somebody got what they call a Taylor. That's a cigarette with a filter on it. Goes for about $25, and he broke it into 2 pre-rolled joints kind of things. And I think I gave him $20 for it. and it was tobacco, and I smoked it alone because my cellie wasn't even a smoker, and it was lovely. It really was. I liked it. And then the next time I go to the same dude, and I said, "Hey, can I? You got any more of that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can get one more." He ran and he got it for me. And he's like, "But this one's 25." Now, instead of going, "Why is it 25?" I just kind of assumed it was 25 because they're running out of crap, right? So I hit it. I gave it to my cellmate. He hit it, and it was somewhere deep enough in it because I took like 3-4 hits and nothing happened. And then I handed it to my celly, and my celly took a hit and went, "Oh." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "No good, dude. No good." And but it was a much different effect the second time because it was not nearly as strong. Stuff I did the first time was horrifying. Well, so you did this? Did you have it as a habit? I mean, were you one of those dudes that was clucking your stuff? And I mean, I'm not busting your chops. But there were people in there that were doing that like crack. They were in there that, I mean, the people that were doing deuce were doing it like crack, man. And were you in the feds? Because that's a I don't know. I've never heard it called deuce on the street, Jason. I've never heard it called deuce on the street. Were you on the were you in the feds or were you in the state? No, and either way, no, I don't mean any disrespect by that. If you caught this stuff on the street, I mean that's cool. I just have never met anyone on the street who called it deuce or tune. Those are usually like prison terms. On the street, they call it, you know, spice or spiz or any of those stuff. It's just a synthetic cannabinoid, is what it is. It's a synthetic cannabinoid. Which, by the way, another great example of a knee-jerk reaction. When the synthetic cannabinoids first came out, they were sold in head shops all over England first, where it really first hit the UK. No, Allendale. Okay. SCDC. So the deuce is frightening, man. Did you watch? So you've seen many an episode, Jason. You've seen many an episode, huh? So an episode, people. Wasp spray, straight up, man. I'm telling you this, people. I'll tell you, this is no joke, right? So this jackwagon at Terre Haute, Indiana Federal Pen. Federal, the FCI, not the pen, but the Federal Corrections Institution in Terre Haute, Indiana. This guy, his mom is smuggling him in deuce. Okay, mom's smuggling him in K2, and so all the white guys who get high on this, there was a bunch of them, and at this point, I was a partier. And that's where I met Q, was at that yard. So I was a partier there. I had not gotten clean yet, but I wasn't doing any of that crap, right? So mom brings this stuff in, but she brought it in a balloon, powdered, right? Powdered. And normally it was getting sprayed onto cards and mailed in. You know the drill. Well, this stuff comes in powder. Now you're supposed to use denatured alcohol. There's like 3 or 4 things that you're supposed to mix it with. Well, they couldn't get any of those. What are you going to run down to the old, try to get pick that up on store? So people, wow, is this funny? I got to hit this one in a second. And people were trying to smoke it as powder. It killed people. They ended up mixing it with floor stripper, and it almost, it was a really, really bad thing. And people were talking about, they were incidences, screaming at the top of their lungs, ripping their clothes off. I mean, crazy stuff. Never violent, just frightening. People usually hurting themselves. The weed we used to get on Fordham Road in the Bronx in the early 90s was definitely sprayed with Raid. ASAP Lizzie says, Fordham Street, number 1, Fordham Road. I know Fordham Road in the Bronx. I do know the road you're talking about. And I did time with a friend of mine who's from that part of the world. And he bought some stuff on Fordham Road, went back to his house, smoked it, and ended up on the roof of his house with a long rifle, where he shot at cops and ended up catching a lot of time for it. But he thought what he bought, he didn't know was wet. And yeah, I was actually really good friends with the cat. But yeah, that's a tough place. A tough place. All right, people. You know what? I ran a little long. You usually got to pay extra for that kind of action, Cotton. All right, sorry. Ran a little long on that one, people. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and I am going to be doing a show a little later in the day with this one. Thanks, Calhoun. Boy, and this year, what are you doing? Be antisocial.
Give us a yawn, please.
Who's a good kitty?
Oh, I know you're so tired.
Yeah, well, of course she's tired. She's been sleeping for the last 16 hours. Do you have any idea the effort that takes? I mean, she got up at 3 a.m. to wake up the entire house because that's what Squirrel does. But other than that, she's been doing nothing for 16 hours. That could take a lot out of you. Hey, Amanda dear, I did salvia once out of a bong, and I said to the guy, if this stuff isn't fun, I'm punching you in the face. Because they were all doing this kind of hee thing before I did it. I was like, look, dude, I don't dig drugs that, what is this going to do? Well, it's like weed. I said, I'm going to tell you something. I find this stuff not fun. I'm telling you right now, you're getting your ass kicked. Like I warned this dude. And then I did a 3-foot bong at it and went, and when I fell back on the bed, I just kept falling. It's like the bed didn't stop me. And it was the worst feeling I ever felt. I woke up and everyone's going, hey, I knocked that fool smooth out. I'm not kidding you. Punched him as hard as I could in the face. And then looked at the dude next to him. You went on that. Want me to hit you? He's like, hey. All right, dude. I had nothing to do with it. I was like, all right, have a great day. And then I called Dumbboy, Johnny Scoville, and said, whatever you do, man, don't ever do. I don't know if you ever heard of this stuff. Don't ever do it. He called me about 4 hours later. He said, hey, man, I just tried that stuff.
I saw that coming.
I swear to you. And he's like, dude, it was so bad. He's like, it's the scariest crap I ever did. He goes, it was, he's like, there's an X actor. What number did you do? I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, this one said X3000. Like it was, I'm like, yeah,
that's why it sucked.
Idea, dude. Yeah, I said, I don't have any idea, dude. But as it turns out, I think he did about like the stuff that was like 3 times stronger than what I did. I can't even imagine the crap he did.
I'm pretty sure I did the X15.
Did you do it more than once?
Yeah, I thought it would be because everyone's other stories were like so wild and crazy. I thought, why is my experience so lame and regular? I tried it a second time and it was the same thing.
Because you're lied to, right? This is the acid thing. I'm not busting anybody's chops because when I say acid, someone in the comment section is going to come up. You get this all the time. I made a hit of acid and I spent 8 hours on the couch talking to Mickey Mouse, right? Everybody's heard these stories, right? I ate acid and my car started talking and the two of us had the deepest conversation. I'll tell you something, man. I've done a lot of acid. I've yet to be able to make a car talk to me. I've never seen Mickey Mouse come. Like the hallucinations, and people believe it. And like common culture of people who've never done it believe that you eat acid and like cartoon characters come to life and hang out with you. What the visuals I got, like you'd see walls that kind of look like they were breathing in and out, right? If you did this one with your hand, you tended to see tracers, like things, you see them done in movies. They make great special effects to show you that, those kind of tracing effects. But all of the stuff that people these great stories that people would tell you, I never experienced any of that. Have I ever seen music? No. Oh, I don't look in mirrors, Brianna Miller. That's a great question. Brianna's done acid. I don't look in mirrors when you're tripping. It's a bad idea.
I was never scared of the mirror when I was tripping.
Oh, I do not go near them. And I don't go near them, not because I'm worried about going into a different world or whatever. I'm worried about finding a blackhead. Right?
Yeah.
Find a blackhead on a trip drug or any of that, and you can end up scarring yourself for the rest of your life.
You have to resolve to not be doing that.
You have to really resolve to not do that. I personally don't go near mirrors. I don't go near mirrors on drugs, period. I've watched people, the worst is meth. You see somebody getting in mirror on meth, and I've watched people scar themselves. I've told the story, but I had a friend who was she was a model. She used to do Miss Hawaiian Tropic stuff. And she actually ratted on me on one of my cases. And when I got out of prison, I ran into her at a 7-Eleven, and she gave me a look like I was going to kill her. You know what I mean? Like, I just said, who cares? You know what? Get over it. Honestly, I don't care. But at first, I didn't recognize her. Like, she had purple. She had dug so hard on the side of her face that it was just scarred and purple. And I felt so bad for her. A lot. I'd stay away from the mirrors. Stay away from the mirrors. People, Cat Kaplan says no acid for me. Probably a good decision. Honestly. The most terrifying high ever. I always thought acid's pretty rugged. There are people that don't like them. I mean, that don't like it. I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to lie to you. That was a drug I had a lot of fun on. But, I've gone to museums on acid. I've done it. No, I take that back. Oh, no, it was acid. I was going to say mushrooms. I'm going to tell this story. I know this is a long show. No, I'm not. But I promise I'll tell it on the next one. I promise, because I've got a great acid story from a museum. One of the great acid stories ever from a museum. And just in case one of the two guys who was with me that day, I know is no longer alive. But just in case the third is still with us, man, I'll tell the story again. I promise. Actually, salvia made me decide not to do acid. I thought hallucinations were just not for me. Acid and salvia have never met. I assure you, they've not met. Cap, basket, captain, son. All right, people, we'll see you on the next one. Stay spirited. Good to see you. Izzy, glad you're here. Shannon, this was fun. Artsy Tartsy, I'm glad that you're here. Valerie, Brianna,
Hey, Dad.
Christina, yeah.
Any news on our interview?
Well, it's going to be today. Is there a time that was better for you, Calhoun?
No, I was just hoping that we could tell everyone beforehand.
Well, people, I would say that we're probably looking at about 11 o'clock my time. Let me rephrase that. We're going to be doing it at 10 o'clock Pacific. Everybody get that? 10 o'clock Pacific time. 10 o'clock Pacific time. 10 o'clock Pacific time. Oh, you did a lot of mescaline? Very similar feeling. I enjoyed mescaline. Microdots were good. But they weren't around for a very long time. Where I lived, it was a hit or miss thing. But I enjoyed mescaline. I really did. And, people get upset when I talk about drugs I enjoyed. I'm sorry. I don't lie. They're big fan of mushrooms. Is what it is, right? They're drugs that I liked. Doesn't mean that they're good. Doesn't mean they're good for you, right? But I was a fan. Calhoun, are you good for the
10? Yeah, oh yeah.
10 Pacific?
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
Okay, then. So
How's my
knows.
audio? Am I echoing?
No, you're hearing it. I'm not.
Cool.
You hear me. I mean, I hear my echo when I talk to you. You hear your echo when you talk to me. I'm not hearing it, and I bet they're not hearing it either.
Okay. It's just because I'm in a big room with nothing in it.
Like, we can get you a smaller place.
Yeah. I could get more stuff to put in here.
Oh, I'm just busting chops. All righty, people. We will see you on the interview. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. We'll see you on the next one, which will be at
10 Pacific.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kristen.